All right, workload analysis. We used to call it caseload analysis. This is kind of the hinge of this whole presentation. Please respect yourself to know that just because you have a 4-year-old blind kid learning Braille, they are not equal to each other. You might have 5 4-year-old blind kids learning Braille. They do not all equal at a specific amount of hours. We can potentially begin to identify patterns and quantities and expectations of estimates. And we'll go over some tools today on how to do that. But it's called workload because our workload is bigger than individual students we support, and our individual students are different. In case you missed last week, there'll be a slide in here, but please check out a Bill of Rights for all children with visual impairment and their families. This was quasi-planned to go from that to this, or to have that precede this presentation. We want our students and our families to feel respected. We want our students and our families to get what they deserve. And probably chief among that is teachers that can handle their jobs. Teachers that feel that they have the time and energy available to do a good job, hence the workload analysis discussion. Also relevant to this discussion, very similar to the Bill of Rights, is the national agenda for the education of children and youth with visual impairments, including those with multiple disabilities. Check it out if you haven't heard of it. Easy Google search to find. We'll link it in with this video next week as well. And finally, the guidelines for programs serving students with visual impairments, the 2014 revised edition. If you're joining us from another state, you probably have something similar. I've taken a peek at a lot of state guidelines. If you're joining this conversation from California and you want answers about your caseload, don't look here. This is some specific formulas and some specific numbers. I want you to be aware of the guidelines. We're tinkering with the idea of revising the guidelines, but this is not your spot to get an answer on this discussion today. All right, our goals for today, we're going to identify the purposes for completing a workload analysis, identify and discuss the process of developing a workload analysis, identify and share templates and elements that are available to utilize, and discuss whether students or elements of work could be standardized. As with all of our Tuesday teas, you guys, turn your mic on and interrupt me. Or if you hold up your hand or something on a chat, I will not be paying attention myself. But if another person braver than you sees that you have your hand up, they can interrupt me. All right, the problem with caseload analysis. So I got a graphic up here that shows a schedule Monday through Wednesday. And I went through and looked at somebody's schedule of direct service time, and I picked apart how much of their day, what percentage of their day was direct service time with students. Mondays was busy. They're at one school site with 5 students. 90% of their work day is with students. Tuesday, they get an immediate break. 25% is with students. Wednesday, back up to 75%. Thursday, only 10% of their day is with students. And on Friday, 50% of their day is with students. We all know as TVIs and O&Mers and service providers, we look at this and we're like, yeah, but like Thursday might be the hardest day of the week. Like 10% with students, but look at all the other stuff I have to jam in the Thursday. Change your glasses and change your hat. What if you're looking at this from a supervisor, from an administrator's point of view? It looks like you practically worked out a 4-day work week. It looks like you almost got a bye on Thursday, and it looks like on Tuesday you're not earning your keep, and Friday you're making me wonder why we're paying you also. So depending on the lens and the perspective that we have on, our caseload by itself can look pretty shady. It can look like something that's not defensible. So there's so much more than just a caseload analysis, and hence what we're doing. So how and why do we transition from a caseload to a workload analysis? This is a workload analysis is a snapshot of how a TVI or an O&Mer allocates your time. There's a bunch of factors: direct and consult responsibilities, assessment, team collaboration, preparation, travel. We're going to have an opportunity to share in a moment. There's more opportunities than that too. There's a bunch of different, I shouldn't say a bunch, there's a few different caseload analysis tools. 2 concretely that are pretty easy to use, 2 more that are so dorky I didn't include them, but they account for, they give you equivalencies of percentages, but there's some tools out there. But the most concrete solution is going to be to formulate a tool specific to each district, region, and team. And so if anything out of this, I hope that we give you the information and the concepts to go generate your own tool to track out your hours and time and concepts, and to know what you're tracking and counting. So task 1, if we're going to go accomplish a workload analysis, I think it starts with your duty statement. I've looked at a couple different people's presentations on this topic, and not a lot of people go here. But at the end of the day, we are in this discussion for our own sanity and ability to do our job. And part of that is in discussion with administration and seeing whether or not more or less staff is required to complete this job. So I think the first step is to begin with what is expected of you in your position. This is an expectation from administration, from colleagues, parents, students, and yourself. Duty statements are also known as position descriptions. I'm sure when we look at this whole country, there's probably other unique names of what these things are called, but we start off with looking at what is expected of you. Some people are surprised when they look at their duty statement. It's something they signed 20 years ago, and they're shocked at things that pop up on it. All right, we have a poll. Amanda, can you cue our first poll?
Sure.
There's 4 questions. Do you have access to your duty statement position or position description? Do you update your duty statement every year? Does your supervisor ask you to sign your duty statement every year? Are you able to suggest changes to your duty statement? And does your duty statement accurately reflect the work that you do? Oh, wow, it's like live answering. How do I share the results? Or can you do that, Amanda? Do you have to wait when it's over, or can you do that live while it's going on?
I think I have an option at some point. Like right now, my only option is to end polling, but there's an option to share the results.
Got it. Don't
I
end
think
it
once
yet.
I end the polling.
Okay, that's fun. In the meantime, I'll check out the 5 people who are sharing their video with us. Family room lurker. Hey, Laura. Laura's got something on her wall. It looks like she graduated from somewhere up there. That's exciting. Almost. Oh, she's like, no, I didn't. I'm changing my camera.
I'm also eating. That's why the camera's up higher.
Oh, slick. Well played. All right. We got to decide what our expectations of percentage are. We're at 63% of people voted. I think we can, it's slowed down. I think we can it. Can you show our progress?
We have, 63. So you want to end it?
Yeah.
Okey-dokey.
Adrian, there's a question in the chat. What is a duty statement?
Yeah, I was hoping that was asked more of what the heck are you talking about? People don't know there's blind kids in my district. I've been doing that for 26 years. If that question is sincere, the duty statement is specifically a list of your responsibilities. It's a list of what is expected of you in your job, and what you're expected to fulfill. Typically, not always, duty statements have percentages next to them. In my own job at CSP, this turns into wonderful arguments with my staff. But it says 8% or it says 10%, and I clearly do 12% of work on this. My typical response is, I don't care. Like, can you manage your job? Like, I can't, we're not going to nitty gritty this down to the single percentage points. But a duty statement, the percentages should reflect what's most important, what comes next, the least important activities. Supervisors will always throw something fantastic at the bottom of a duty statement that says something to the effect of other duties as assigned. And this is so, if necessary, they can sign you up to clean the bathroom without any argument from you, should that become appropriate. but most of your duties should be reflected in your duty statement. I'm positive some people do not have duty statements in this group right now because the percentages would be silly otherwise. So I'm sure some of you had never had one. And I don't know what my recommendation is to you if you've never had one. Maybe live that life. The benefits might outweigh the alternative of going and getting yourself one. So do you have access to your duty statement position? 55% of people said yes. 31% said no. 14% said, I think so, but I don't know where I put it. Do you update your duty statement every year? One person said they update it every year. 15 people, 52% said every now and again, and 45% of people said they've never updated their duty statement. This is fairly common. Does your supervisor ask you to sign your duty statement? An overwhelming amount of people said no. That's lame, right? This is your job, right? If it gets updated and changed, shouldn't you be having a say-so and agreeing to it? That is definitely something you want at least to feel that you had a say-so in it and you had an opportunity to say, hey, I don't believe that's reflected in, that should be reflected in my duties. You always have the opportunity to come work at CSB, but when they are changed or updated, you theoretically should be signing it because you're agreeing to a new job description. That is not the job you got hired for. That is not the job you signed up for when the duty statement is changed. Are you able to suggest changes to your duty statement? It was about 50-50 in people saying yes or no. And does your duty statement accurately reflect the work that you do? It was about 50-50 on yes or no, but 28% of people said sort of. So I'm gonna stop. Oh, I don't know what I just did. Am I controlling anything? People don't see the results anymore, right?
I don't believe so. I think I can just close it out. We'll be good.
All right. So task 2 of work analysis is to complete a desk audit. Some of our blindness world people have named this different things, but I chose to call it a desk audit because you can Google it. Everybody's doing desk audits. All sorts of workplaces are asking for desk audits. And so since it's the same bailiwick at the end of the day, the same thing, why not call it what it is rather than come up with a unique name for our field? So what a desk audit is to take a look at everything you do. Super challenging for a teacher because what I do this week looks different than what I do next week, which looks very different than what I do in February, which looks entirely different what I do the first week of June. And so there's different ways to go about a desk audit. Some people will literally go and look at their entire year. They'll look at this, I'm gonna capitalize everything I plan to do this year. Very organized people, I'm sure they have a wonderfully planned year and it suits them well. I think that's challenging and hard for most of us. It's hard to anticipate that far ahead. So I think my suggestion is to grab a certain amount of time, to grab 2 to 3 weeks of your year and tell yourself, I'm gonna track every single element of what happens this year in this desk audit. And I'm going to make sure that all of everything is reflected, all the little things and big things. And from there, we're going to attribute percentages to it. I had some notes in this presentation, you guys, and when I have it broadcast, I don't see that. So I'm going to try to save myself on this other machine. Or just embarrass myself. That works too. All right. So don't ignore the small things, keep track of them. Take time to track time. You have to commit to this so that you'll have accurate data. So don't choose October when you have 35 IEPs because while it's an important reflection that you have all those IEPs, you don't have the time to do a desk audit at the same time. It's just not gonna work. And be honest, the wonderful part of you is why you are in this profession. Don't let frustration about being overworked compromise this process. I see too often when I've gone and helped with workload analysis in districts or counties that the reason I've come in to help is because the team is angry and upset. And they, for lack of anything, they lie, they fib, they make up stuff. This assessment took me 3 weeks of time, 5 hours a day. No, it didn't. Maybe it felt that way because it was hard and it took up a lot of time and you're frustrated and you're angry. But let's treat this as a respected process. The odds of this coming out not in your favor are low. We all work really, really hard. And so reflecting our honest data is going to help us a lot. So depending on how you do, I didn't change my template for Venus, Mars, and Saturn here. Depending on how you do your log, you might need to create formulas that analyze how frequently an activity occurs and how much time is devoted in total. So you might have to say, hey, I looked at 3 weeks. I'm going to multiply that by the number of students. If you only did 1 IEP during that time or 1 assessment, or maybe times the number of weeks in the school year. How you extrapolate from the amount of time you do a desk audit to your total year is dependent on the stat and data itself. So if it's about an IEP, we extrapolate based on students. If it's about time, whoa, just like that. Yep. We're back. That was weird. Oh, see, this is why I wanted my notes up so I could see what was coming next. So timing is relevant. I really think that before you do a desk audit or a workload analysis, that vision staff and admin will need to pre-meet to agree on and understand the type of tool being used. So getting admin buy-in is incredibly important. I just talked about Logomit should be taken on 2 to 3 sample weeks of the year. Be aware of times when student populations and schedules are not in flux. Class parties, field trips, and testing can completely change your job duties, and they can happen for just 2 weeks of the school year. That would be a bad time to try to figure out everything that's on your plate when all you're doing is SBAC testing for 2 weeks, right? It's important to recognize that SBAC testing takes up some of your time, but it's a bad reflection of your averages. The entire process needs to be timed to make budget recommendations process. Oh, timed, not times. So this is probably not a very fruitful activity for next year if you do a workload analysis at the end of April. You'll have all this data and you'll say, see, I've proven that we need another TVI, or I've demonstrated we need another O&M in our district or county next school year. And you're going to take this in a wonderful presentation to your SPED director and superintendent at the start of May, and they're going to say, that's fantastic. Maybe we can think about that for the following school year with a whole school year in between. You've come to me way too late for us to consider changing our budget for next school year. And so if you are hurting right now in your workload and you really think that this process is going to help you identify need of a new teacher, I strongly recommend that you do this process beginning now. And remember, this process begins with you talking to your supervisor about completing the process. All right, we're about to get to some fun, and man, my timing sucks. All right, task 3, identify appropriate elements. So I should have called it get rid of inappropriate elements of your duty statement and of the tasks and things that you do. Eye exams, you guys, this is an accurate statement in California. There are still a couple of places where nurses have not taken over eye exams, and TVIs are expected to go through their schools and be there during eye exams. That seems like crazy sauce. I know that was just the way it was way back when, but there are TVIs that are responsible for processing the paperwork, distributing numbers, and cataloging thousands of kids' eye exams and testing. That is something that we can pass the buck to a school nurse or somebody else. Orders. Could office staff be more involved in the ordering process? I know some of you just tell somebody what you want and magically it gets delivered later. Others of you are incredibly involved in the process of getting quotes and talking to people and doing all sorts of stuff. Meetings, are you attending meetings just because everyone else is? Too often I hear, well, I have to go to the special ed general meeting, or I have to go to all the regular ed meetings because they call them teacher meetings. It's a great opportunity to talk to your direct boss and say, hey, you know what? These have never been relevant. I've been here for 25 years. and not once was one of these meetings relevant to what I do. Can I pass on some of them? And then unnecessary assessments. These hurt because these are the ones that are painful for us because we're saying, no, they do not qualify for a visual impairment. And we question ourselves and we spend our lives and heart to make sure we're right in that assessment. But sometimes it's because we haven't educated the program specialist and the SPED director about what strabismus is. And so they see something that they type into Google and they say, oh, look, a clear problem with their eyes. And look I saw the kid and it's such a problem. And if we educate our admin staff and our SPED teachers that have these kids, then maybe less of these unnecessary assessments will come our way and the team will ask questions prior to signing an assessment plan, which ropes you into yet another assessment. All right, share time, guys. What else is on the list? Sometimes it takes someone else labeling something you do as excess and unnecessary for you to appreciate it. So we dumped on eye exams, orders, meetings in general, and unnecessary assessments. Anybody have anything else?
Legal IEPs that take hours is from Patricia in Fresno. And Summer said, yeah, no way that she could do eye exams for all 4 of her school districts. That would be a lot.
Seriously. There's no way I got them all, you guys. Not something that somebody has gripe with that you do?
Team meetings that are team meetings that are about more than just my vision students. So getting roped into unnecessary staff meetings sounds like yes, staff meetings that are about other students.
Yeah, I hear that. You know, sometimes because you're a special educator, you get invited to a meeting about a kid being considered for special education. That is tough. Oh, para-educator scheduling. That's interesting. I would not have wrote in special or para-educators in here because some of you know how passionate I am about TVIs having a major role in working with para-educators, but scheduling is certainly something we could probably pass the buck on. Ooh, absentees, just this flat out wasting their time. That's going to require a better system, right? Need a better system for knowing about student absence. I'm not sure that's something to get off our plate, but that's certainly something to improve our efficiency. All right, for lack of a better term, that was wonderful. Record keeping, chasing down paperwork from regional centers. Ooh, gotta add some things to the list, right? Who is sick and tired of doing an assessment for a new student and getting to it whenever you get to it on day 25 or 30, feeling like you're a champ because you've left yourself half the time, to find out that no one ever asked for an eye report? Nobody who was in that meeting or that assessment plan thought it was appropriate to ask for an ophthalmology report until you as a TVI comes along and you're begging the parents, please, 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 take a picture with your phone of the computer screen if you must. Send me anything the eye doctor said. These are other things that we could train our office staff and program specialists to do, right? You want this parent to sign an assessment plan for vision? Let's get that eye report on point A. These are things that will help us a lot. No eye reports happens a lot, seriously. It sure would help if we asked for them right off the bat. Task 4, reset your duty statement. Simple, the changes are proposed, we communicate those changes with everybody that would be affected by them, and we sign it to make them official. The reason I put this last note, sign it to make it official, if you guys haven't noticed lately, TVIs seem to have a little bit longer lifespan than program specialists and special ed directors. We cycle through them like water. They got 1 to 3 years of time in a spot and they move on. So your boss is going to change in the future. Unless you work at CSB for me, then I'm going to be here until the cows come home. And sorry, guys, just your lot in life. All right. Class sizes and caseloads must be based on the individual needs of the student. So said the National Association of State Directors of Special Education for Blind and Visually Impaired Students in the Blind and Visually Impaired Students Educational Service Guidelines published in 1999. So how come we haven't figured it out yet? It's what an IEP is, right? An IEP says we have to individualize the team, the education, the service strategy. So how come we fail so constantly? One reason is because we have a teacher shortage for TVIs, especially, and in some areas, O&Mers. But certainly for TVIs, that's part of the equation. I think the bigger part of the equation is that people don't know what you do. And the administration in school districts are unaware of what it takes to educate a blind student. So let's use this workload as that opportunity. All right, this is a picture of a middle school class with 109 students in a city in Henan, China. It is wild and crazy, and there's 109 students in the thing. Could you imagine working with one of these kids? Well, you know, if I just give them a video magnifier, let's make sure they're up against the wall so that they have power. And if somebody could get them an Apple Pencil and an iPad to add to this million different texts that they have on their thing. Oh, yeah, and I got to fit in an aid next to them. Let's make sure we have CVI accommodations in place for clutter. This is a joke, you guys. This is what some of your workloads feel like, but it's real. See, general education should turn to television for tips towards solutions. For those of you who can't see, this is a picture from The Simpsons of bunk desks. This is a triple bunk desk style where students are stacked up on top of themselves, 3 high, meaning you can cram in as many kids as you want. Summer says, that is terrifying. Seriously, it's not good for coronavirus either, I heard. Just creates a problem, especially for those kids at the top, you know, that hot air travels up. All right, poll 2, Amanda. Let's hit them with it. Well, bam.
Okie dokie. Let's see, poll number 2, launch.
How many students are on your caseload? How many students do you have direct service with? How many students do you have consultation only for? And do you lie awake at night wondering how on earth you got into this job in the first place? We'll give you just a minute to fill this out. And so you know ahead of time, I lie awake wondering how I got into this job in the first place every single night. And I wake up every morning delighted I'm still in it. It's fun, great work that seems to absorb all of my hobby time and work time. For those of you who have been to a presentation that I've done before, big surprise, I'm running late. That's only ever happened in 100% of presentations I've ever done. So on that note, Amanda, 50% of people did it. Let's end this polling and share the poll.
Sounds good.
Oh man, some of you guys said 6 to 10 people are on your caseload. Kids are on your caseload. I love you and your supervisor and your job, and I'm proud of that system, and I hope it's working. I hope they're not all 10 Braille kids learning emerging Braille readers that are mainstreamed at 10 different schools. But I like it. A good chunk of people, 16 to 20, 21 to 25, and somebody in the more than 45 section, but nobody in 41 to 45. Good for you. Somebody in chat was saying, yeah, I'm on a partial caseload. I only work half a day a week and I have 20 kids. How many students do you have direct service with? Obviously our numbers dropped. Holy cow, you guys, it gets hard, right? Yeah, even our majority, 11 to 15 kids with direct service, that's a lot. I know a couple counties that put a cap on direct service is 16. I think this is ridiculous to ever put a cap on anything with workload analysis. I think we need to analyze the individual kids, their stage in school, what they're trying to tackle for any given year, and base our caseloads on that. But some people try. 21 to 25 direct service. That must be the person with 45 kids on their caseload. And then consultation, that is, call me. I'm interested in the job that only has 1 to 5. You guys, there's a lot of you. We typically do quite a bit of consultation statewide from what I have seen, but 21 to 25 is up there as our outlier, and we got 1 to 15 consults. Do you lie awake at night wondering how on earth you got into this job in the first place? Yes, 7 people. No, 7 people. 8, never. Loving every moment, even the ones that stink. That is definitely where I fall into this career path. We can stop sharing that poll. Being a vision teacher or an O&Mer is about as much fun as I can imagine having. But man, it sucks sometimes. It is hard. Things stack up and there's so much that we have to do and so much pressure to get it right. And I think that's why it's fun, because we care. And we want to get it right, and we want to help teams and kids and families. So why not even number caseloads? Because caseloads are made up of various types of students requiring different kinds of assistance at different stages of their lives. And this is why I specifically don't like a county nearby me that says 16 kids on your caseload. Well, that's lame. 16 kids on a caseload is going to cause infighting amongst the 5 TVIs that you have, and they're going to quit and leave from time to time like they do because they're frustrated about their neighbor's caseload. Because I can pick 16 kids that are easy. I can pick 16 kids that are going to be impossible in an 80-hour work week. And so quit making it about numbers and make it about the individual kids and where they are at that time of life. Functionally blind students are often extremely labor intensive when learning cane skills and again when learning public transit. Infants and toddlers with low vision are at a critical developmental stage. During this time, consistent and frequent intervention may mean the difference between using vision to its fullest and functioning at a lower level. Don't we know that, man? Lately, everybody, we're all learning about CVI, right? And it's in our face all of the time. Don't screw this up. Don't screw up your toddler years. Don't screw up the baby years. Don't screw up the start of school. You screw it up, it's all your fault. This kid will never ever see the way they could have, right? We know that's true in general with learning at the young years, yet who often falls off the map of getting our service? It's the little ones whose parents are inundated with other stresses and vision doesn't seem to be the most important thing. It's the kids without grades that are failing, that nobody's yelling at us, that it's their vision is the reason they're gonna fail out of high school or middle school or not succeed in their future. When in reality, our little guys with low vision require so much of our time. Students with multiple impairments require frequent consultation for intervention to have its greatest effect. Have you guys ever sat in an IEP and you're about to recommend service for that kid with multiple impairments and you question yourself, like, do they need direct service time? And you're like, I know I'm supposed to say yes because that's equitable and fair and nice, but that little trigger in the back of your mind is probably telling you the truth. No, if the system was amazing, right? If you were queen or king of consultation, maybe you wouldn't have to give direct service time because you have this beautiful environment centered around this kid where all these accommodations are in play, right? You got to get to that point where suddenly you're at an IEP for this kid with multiple disabilities and you're like, you know what? I think I'm going to pass. We have created the coolest accommodation environment this world has ever seen. You don't need the TVI coming in and doing all these things anymore. You just need to implement this bad boy. That's going to take a lot of time to get to. So what are other justifications?
Hi, Adrian, not a justification, but there's a comment in the chat. A lot of solely consultation kiddos are being 504'd. It's cheaper for districts. ... This is from Nick.
That's tricky. Some districts tell their TVI they're responsible for 504 accommodations. I don't know what to do in that situation. If you're providing the accommodations already, great. It's a little confusing. They're not on an IEP. If they don't require service, what I just said, if you're doing this perfectly, I'm not going to fight the 504 kid if it's a perfect system. Show me that. Show me the school and the district that you have such a perfect accommodation environment that you don't need direct service, and I will buy you a pie. Wherever you live. We can do this via Zoom or in person next year. A pie is on me if you've got a blind kid to the point where it's so beautiful that they don't need direct service. And bridge school doesn't count.
And we have another comment that another TVI, also Diane, works with 504 kiddos. And then Mary said in our state makes direct services mandatory for dual sensory loss, even if the environment is a well-oiled machine.
That's interesting.
And lots of comments. Thank you, everyone. 504s have no funding. IEPs have legal weight and low incident monies from Patricia. And Diane also adds some have district services, even though they're on a 504. And Nick added, I don't think they get low incidence funding on a 504. And then Diane added direct services. Yes. Thank you for all the activity in the chat.
Seriously, I'm hearing it. We provide direct services and IEPs. I like it. See, maybe there's a rhyme or reason to why we need the consult and direct service.
And the question, what are we justifying?
We're gonna jump over this, but we're justifying why not even number caseloads. So I can point out some people in this chat are in counties, in fact, or in this case, that their counties have a respected number where they say do not max out on 18 students. Don't go above 24 students. In one county in particular that says you will have 16 students. And why is that not a valid justification for better or worse? We're gonna skip ahead though, out of respect for time. Your administration, whether you feel that they are supportive or contrary, including relevant leaders, will increase the potential effectiveness of this process. We could come up with all sorts of rationale for why your super supportive leader, you should explore what your job is about and get them more on the inside, and why your contrary leader is being obnoxious is probably because they don't understand completely what you're up to. So roping them into this process of workload analysis is important. So here's a quote that I heard from your own personal administrator that I chose to rope in and write into this presentation. So I was talking to your administrator and they say, once I got to know the vision staff and learned about the different elements of their job, I really began to understand the complexities of what they do and how much time it takes to provide good service to students. Isn't that amazing? This is your own administrator after you do a workload analysis with them. They start to respect you. Does it solve the problem? Not necessarily. You might still have your 40 kids and 25 direct kids, and it might be pain to get through your week, but at least they understand and respect your situation. I love this math. It's from the Program Info and Administrative Resources on TSBVI's website. It says low numbers plus wildly diverse students plus limited VI professionals plus the itinerant service delivery model equals challenges for administrators. And then some. Each one of these factors in and of itself is tricky. But how do you supervise vision staff? How do you supervise a TVI or an O&Mer? Many of you are thinking they don't. I'm not even positive they know I work for them or that they're my supervisor. Like, they just ignore me. They ask me for my advice, they put in orders, and they don't know who I am. Others of you are like, I don't know, they sure try. They're all up in my business. It's hard, and us coming at our administration knowing it's hard is an important first step. So we got task 5, tools to help. I mentioned that there's a variety of workload analysis tools on the market. 2 that I like a lot that I strongly recommend are the Visit and the Vision Services Severity Rating Scales. The Visit is the Visual Impairment Scale of Service Intensity of Texas. And I know I don't have too much time to go through all of this, but it looks a little bit like this. Big old stamp of Texas, you wouldn't want to leave your state without branding it. It goes through, it's got this explanation that's totally worth reading it all, because if you don't read it all, you're going to get to this box down here at the bottom. How do I make it so you see my whole screen? Can I make it bigger? That'll do the trick. You're going to get down to this box at the bottom and you're not going to know how to fill it out. But if you read that preamble, you're going to fill this visit out for each individual student in about 2.5 minutes per student. And I mean that. It's going to go quick. You know your students, it's easy to fill out. So this particular sample, I looked at a 6th grade student in advanced classes. They're recently identified. They're a real quick learner. They're adept already with technology, and Braille is being introduced and they're expected to lose vision. So it asks some real concrete questions about literacy instruction. Are they going to need emergent literacy, pre-Braille, Braille, Nemeth, access the print? And I look at a scale that gives me 0, 1, 4, 7, and 10. Not in between. I gotta make a hard choice and choose one of these. So I chose 7. It's a high need. It's a high priority. It's not intense. It's not a need priority at this moment. I got a smart kid that has their vision right now. I know I need to get to it ASAP, but I'm not drowning in it yet. I know this will turn into a 10 if I don't address it. If I don't address it now. I'm going to interrupt myself with Chrissy Cohen's comment. Visit is always superseded by our functional vision and learning media and tech assessments. If you don't do your evaluations first, you're going to struggle in completing the visit. My comment that this is going to take you about 2 minutes per kid is if you've already done the assessments and you understand this kid thoroughly, then you're going to whip through this process like nobody's business. The really neat thing about the visit is it makes you scale direct instruction for a TVI. And it also makes you scale the educational team support and collaboration. And so when I looked at this particular kid and I thought about organization, I thought, man, this is a kid who's about to lose their vision. I'm going to have to really nail down and talk about how they're going to need organization and their schematic and their approach to their classes. Yeah, I'm going to have to spend quite a bit of time making sure their teachers are giving them stuff in the appropriate fashion and stuff, but that's not the same scale. I don't need to worry about the teachers quite as much as I have to worry about the students' access to their own organization. The visit will tabulate out these scores. And at the very end, here's an example of I did a 10 to 1. 10, computer access. I know I got to teach this kid losing their vision computers, right? Do I have to worry about teaching their ed staff about computers? Not yet. Kid can still see, right? They're able to follow the directions in class when the teacher says click on the X in the top right corner. I don't need to coach up the teaching staff quite yet, but I sure have to teach the kid ahead. So by the time we're done with the visit, we have a score. And it gives me a variety of scores. It gives me an opportunity to add family support. So it does respect that the family is going to need some time and support on the same scaled rating score system. And it comes down and this is all automated. It put this 65 down here. And the score of 65 is automated. I look at this, it says 180 to 270 minutes per week. I used my own professional judgment and I entered 120 minutes per week because I said to myself, gosh, I respect this visit and I noticed that it wants me to give this kid a lot of time. 2 factors for me in deciding 2 hours a week. The first factor I looked at was, gosh, in Texas, they do a 7-hour and 15-minute school day. We don't do a 7-hour and 15-minute school day, so these numbers are a little north of what might be normal here as far as percentages go. And the second thing I look at here is, oh no scale understands how quick of a learner this one is. Like this particular kid is one fast learner. I know, I see in my head what my 2 hours a week look like. So I chose to underscore it because oftentimes you might actually need to over effort this element. The workload analysis will tell you a certain number and you might need to say to yourself, no, I actually need more time with this kid. But in our honest reflection of how we do this, you gotta allow yourself to count down a kid to based on that individual student. And so I'm going to jump off, or I'm going to spend forever talking about this. This is a beautiful tool that's going to walk you down to this point of determining how much direct service time you have with a student and how much consultation you have with the student. It's not a full workload analysis. And I say that, I emphasize that fully, that it does not look at everything on your plate. The next one that I clarified out was the Michigan Vision Services Severity Scale. Again, a preamble that is worth reading. And talk about easy breezy lemon squeezy, you guys. You fill out these 7 lines, 8 lines really, and you put a score over here in the right column, their level of vision distance acuity, their level of vision in peripheral field, their functional near vision, reading medium, low vision technology and devices, material preparation, compensatory skills, and communication with students, team, and pertinent individuals. As we stated, you do this after your evaluation. This one you can probably fill out in 30 seconds per kid. No joke, if you know your kids thoroughly. They read 20 to 26 point font. Yep, that's a 2. So I'm looking at just the student here. I then get an opportunity to add to some contributing factors of service delivery. And I get to define these on my own. Whether their age adds value or subtracts value at the moment to my amount of service. At the end of the day, and this is all automated again, at the end of the day, it is going to total my score, and I didn't do anything. I didn't type anything in down here. It tells me that my final score is 21.5, 1 to 2 times per week, 30 to 40 minutes each. I come back up here and I see that 21.5 is really close to 23. Anything above 23 would have been 2 or more times per week, 30 to 60 minutes per week. And I look at my visit and I go, all right, I think my visit, my 120 minutes was 90 minutes and 30 minutes. And I think those are pretty similar. These both tools gave me the discretion to choose my recommendation, but they targeted me in a similar spot. I personally think the visit and the vision services severity scale are so simple that if I was arguing out my own caseload, I would do both of them. I would do a compare contrast, or not a compare contrast, I would do a dual columned spreadsheet, and I would look at both the visit and the severity scales, just so I can justify my own recommendation in and above on top of that. They're that quick. Wonderful program from Quality Programs for Students with Visual Impairments out of Canada, but they don't have anything available right now. They're working on transitioning it to a workload analysis tool for public consumption. We talked about the visit, we talked about the severity scales. Personalize the workload element. So without a current tool that considers all elements of a workload, you will have to develop your own additional elements to add to a caseload tool's results. On the horizon is the visual impairment scale of staffing patterns. Rona Progrand out of Texas Tech University, she's the one who developed the visit. She's leading a team of people to develop a true workload analysis tool. As I said, British Columbia is working on it as well with the quality programs, but Rona is really on a timeline. They're already trialing it with some people, and it looks sharp. And I think they're anticipating sometime in 2021, probably towards the end of the year, that that's going to be hopefully released as a tool. Holy smokes. All right, I can go a little bit over. That's how we roll. So what number am I adding up to? So we've done these, you guys have done these scales. You've done either your Michigan severity scale, you've done your visit scale, and you're thinking, what does that equal? Like, I'm trying to reflect back to this desk audit, right? Like, we're exempt as teachers. Exempt status has its pros and cons. It means that tonight you might have to stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning because you have 2 reports due and an amazing lesson that you have to do. And there's nobody to complain to. And the theory behind that is that next Friday, you might get away with a 2-hour workday, right? That again, there's not there can't be a standard forced amount of hours on a teacher. is the concept of an exempt status that you simply have to be prepared for tomorrow. But we have the standard assumption that that's 40 hours a week. If you're pushing 40-hour-a-week job, it's time to consider bringing in someone new. Teacher work weeks vary based on union contracts, but a typical 8 to 4 shift with 30-minute duty-free lunch has 37.5 hours in it. That is my fancy math and formula for those of you who are like, I want to equal out hours. Aim for 37.5 hours a week, and if you're doing that, you are working full-time. No one's going to be asking more of you of that in a union contract. Some of you won't have that high of an expectation. Unless you're in Texas, then you have to work 500 hours a week. That was a dig on Texas, if anybody is here, because of their long school day, which is probably better. Activities that should be considered. So this is that list. Furiously, write it down, quick. Screenshot, take a picture with your phone. Call your mom, have her log in and write it down for you. Remember, this will show up later, and we'll share I'm happy to share the slides with you guys too. So media creation, you guys make Braille, you make large print, you make auditory, you make electronic media. Holy cow, you spend a lot of time doing this. Student staffings, we mentioned those earlier. Parent check-ins and conferences. Assessment beyond services. So we don't just do assessment when we serve kids, right? We have to schedule time for assessments. Records review and interviews, observation time, staff trainings, maintenance records, correspondence. Holy smokes, anything else? Diana, you're dying to tell me another one.
No.
This can get expanded, you guys, to AT. Holy cow, learning it, right? Learning and designing lessons.
Commute time,
Commute time.
professional development,
PD, being expected to answer your phone when you're at work. I'm gonna just hang up on them. All these things take more time.
training paraeducators,
Isn't that true? Totally something you should do too. Make your life so much simpler. Worth time up front. These are things you guys got to factor in to fixing AT during remote learning. Quick, nobody tell my AT team about this.
researching resources.
Yeah, we try to do some of that for you guys on our COVID page, but it is hard. So all these factors, and you got to figure out averages, right? You're going to have to, if you're going to reflect out a workload analysis, you're going to have to present it to your boss of, this is my schedule for the week or the month, right? If you're one of those awesome people who does the whole year, good luck having your boss want to sit down and listen to your discussion about what you're going to do the whole year, right? I'm not sure I want to sit down with one of my team members and listen to their plan in June when it's August, because I want them to be flexible. I want them to be willing to change what they do in June. But I think the ideal presentation of a workload analysis is going to be, hey boss, I've looked at my whole plate, and this is what an average make-believe week looks like. About 2 hours of my week are research, and researching everything from my resources to my eye diseases to other things. And I got to that number because we work 37 weeks in a school year. And when I looked at my caseload, I figured that I would be researching about 74 hours a year. Hey, when I divided that into the number of weeks in a year, it came up with 2 hours per week. So I'm going to present this schedule of a week or a schedule of a month, whatever you think is better suited, to demonstrate to yourself, to your peers, to your supervisor, what your case ought to look like to support a certain number of students. And you can also demonstrate why it doesn't work, right? Why when you tell me to pick up these other 5 students that came into our district this year because there's nobody to look at when I look over my shoulder, why you're burning me out, why you're going to lose me and I'm going to have to quit this position and go apply to the School for the Blind because they respect my workload a little bit more than you do.
And there's a couple more in the chat. I know we're over a little bit, but consultation with related agencies like Department of Rehab, consultation with other IP members, SLP, OT, PT, etc. Delivering accessible materials, ordering, maintaining, inventorying, and tracking equipment. all really important things that our TBIs and O&Ms have to do.
Well, delivering materials, you just do that in the evening after dinner time. You drop them off at the kid's house. We're talking to TBIs, right? A little confused about the complaint. What are we talking about this whole time? We just work hard, right? My bad. Don't need to stem on it, but most fun I've ever had with a team doing workload analysis is somebody on the team suggested that everybody print their days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, on transparencies. And everybody printed on a different color from Google Maps or whatever it was. And it was all coordinated, and I showed up, and somehow, I think they did it together. I think they sat down and one person did it all together before I showed up. And we literally were able to stack their days on top of each other, and I was like, this is so cool. Look at this person, they cross each other 4 times in the same day. And I was sharing this with somebody at an outreach forum for Schools for the Blind, and Brandon Watts of Utah said, dude, just use Scribble Maps. It's easy. You can do it online. It's got like Google Maps. It shows exactly where someone goes each day of the week. So check out Scribble Maps, but take your map analysis for real. This is an obvious, clear and present solution for teams of more than one person. I want you to respect the skills and individual skills of your teachers. Somebody's real good at tech, somebody's real good with babies, somebody's real good with transition age kids. But there comes a certain time where push comes to shove. You simply can't cross your county over and over and over again 4 or 5 days a week because you're real good with babies. Like you gotta look and respect the map and say, this map says that so-and-so's on your caseload, or wow, 5 new kids came into our district last week. Remember those kids? We gotta switch. I gotta trade this kid over to you. It doesn't make sense anymore based simply on logistics. Scribble Maps is a really neat online tool that will let you do that and place kids and place providers and color code them and make them all pretty to make it work. If you do it by yourself, do it by yourself. Do it with Google Maps. It's easy, but you can also start to change around your day and really let the map direct you. Pay attention to travel times and commute times. Those of you in LA, the freeway's too busy, so it just sucks. Sorry, no solution. It's hard to travel between schools. Some caution. If you are on a team, Summer says she agrees, Western Washington, and sometimes it doesn't make sense. Whoa, I can't even read the whole comment. Thank you, Summer. If you're doing this as a group, if there's more than one teacher and you're taking on a workload analysis, be very cautious of your feelings and the respect amongst your team members. Some of our vision professionals find that the process of caseload and workload analysis, they see it as questioning their professional expertise. We've got to support them in supporting you. We've got to convince our team members that we're not doubting you. We're not saying you can't do your job. We're looking for more effective means of doing our job. We're looking at getting everybody on the same path and everybody kind of cohorted together. And you'll also get frustration or people who aren't jumping up and down of doing your workload analysis because maybe they drew, is it the short straw or the long straw? Maybe they have the easiest caseload on the team and they're like, dude, I'm not doing a workload analysis with you. Are you kidding me? I'm living large right now. This is wonderful. And that's difficult. So that's about culture and climate and creating a team atmosphere where people want to support each other. I talked about the proposed schedule. This shows just the beginning of one, but this is, I said, a week or a month. You're proposing and you're showing. You got to demonstrate to this somehow in this proposed phantom schedule. It's got to have real time, right? So this particular one has my lessons with Johnny Be Good and Peggy Sue. And in this particular schedule I showed, I got travel time, which is literal, right? To drive from one school to the other, it takes me 15 minutes or 10 minutes and parking and all that. And then I'm going to enlarge using the School of Rock photocopier every day when I'm done with Peggy Sue, because I know I got to enlarge for 12 other kids and they got the best photocopier in town, right? I'll probably do that every single week all year long. But after 10:30, I might write 10:30 to 11:15, researching. That's not what you're going to do every single Monday. You're not going to research from 10:30 to 11:15. But when you've done your full workload analysis and you've created your formulas to figure out your averages, You got to reflect it somehow in something readable and presentable, right? We can't say that we just can't predict what's coming, right? So we got to figure out averages. So I strongly advise you to create that schedule. I think a week makes sense. I would color code it. If these things are going to happen every single week, guaranteed, I might color code those and say, I'm going to have these lessons, travel time and enlargement. That's going to happen every single week. But I know that from my 10:30 to 11:15, my research, that's just my law of averages telling me I got a lot time for that. So I'm going to color code that another time so that when I present that to my boss, they know right up front, that's an estimate. These other things are real deal. I have to do those or you're going to fire me. Somebody said it's all about justifying minutes. That's our predecessor, right? That's the data is what justifies our minutes. That our reflection and being able to say the reason I said 2 hours a week on research is because I have this many kids on my caseload, 20 kids on my caseload, and there's 37 weeks in a school year. And I believe that to research eye conditions for each kid ahead of their IEP will take me this many hours. So in review, it's an important element of program management, an important factor in job retention. Changes to staffing cannot occur without a thorough workload analysis, and it has to be based on verifiable data. You have to be able to answer specific questions with specific answers, data. The effort involved is we got to conduct it on a regular periodic basis when changes occur. If we want to validate based on this year's kids or next year's incoming kids, we have to do it again next year because those kids change, their needs change, their ages change. It's a collaboration between admin and vision staff. No administrator likes to be told this is how it's going to be. They all want to be involved in the process, whether they're supportive of you or contrary with you. They want to know what you're up to when you're proposing changes. I think that was all the same, potential change accepted. Student need is the focus rather than service capability. I can swing my foot out in a kicking like motion and accidentally run into your admin team if they're telling you that this kid only gets 30 minutes a week because I say so. Or here's an assessment, don't give them more than an hour a week. That sadly happens nationwide. We choose, and you know what, more intrinsic to this problem is TVIs we are doing it and we know, I can't deal with this, I'm done. I can't give them more than 30 minutes a week because I will have a personal mental breakdown if I put more than 30 minutes a week on this kid. And so that's all I'm going to do. And I've been there. I know everybody probably has been in this situation. This is where your fantastic communication skills and relationship with parents comes to shine, right? So when you show up to an IEP and you say, you know what, I think this kid deserves 3 hours a week. I'm available to give him 30 minutes. This is where we are. This is when my supervisor chimes in and tells me, I say, no, remember we did that workload analysis. I really don't have more time than that. And that's a shame. Hey, parents, there's this teacher shortage. We can't solve this problem. This is the best we can do for you right now. But honesty is what will get you the best results in the long run. I have a couple slides on identifying the problem doesn't solve it. So that what I'm talking about right now, when we've identified we have a problem with our workload and we don't solve it. So a few considerations. Consider rearranging students. So that map, right? Moving them around. The number of schools served, travel time and consultation reduced, ages and grade levels of students. Some ages, grades require more time. When possible, specific skills and talents of teachers should be considered. This is only for teams of more than one, right? We can consider moving kids around. If it's a team of one, you can't do this. Travel time, analyze travel patterns and timing. We have to look at that when we're in, and that can affect a team of one or a team of more than one. Does allowing service beyond school hours help? O&Mers just had the big win from AB 947 in California. TVI's got a may. We may be able to consider all these alternatives, including time beyond school hours. This doesn't necessarily make your 40-hour week look any better, but it might make your sanity look a lot better. And maybe you talk to your administrator and say, hey, if I could see this kid from 3:30 to 5 every day, whose parents are fully supportive of that, Not only would it be better service for them and they wouldn't be missing all of their mainstream classes, but my week looks a lot sharper. My life looks a lot easier if I can see them outside of school hours. When we're really punting and we really are looking for other opportunities, can procurement and preparation be outsourced? So can office staff, can transcribers aid in acquiring materials and preparing work? Transcribing Mariners in Auburn, California does a fantastic job providing Braille. They can do large print, they can do electronic text. It doesn't just have to be Braille. They can deliver it to your student's school, to their house. They go above and beyond to make it easy on you as a TVI. Can after school or short-term opportunities be taken advantage of? The California School for the Blind short courses and training opportunities we have, Braille Institute, San Francisco Lighthouse, Sacramento Society student groups. Could these supplant? You don't have enough time to teach the kids all areas of the expanded core curriculum. Can you identify and find other people to help teach those concepts and skills to our kids? Other states can use them as well. Probably CSB short courses, you're the last one on a list if you sign up for a short course. So we can take kids into our short-term programs, but you're automatically waitlisted if you're outside of California. But it doesn't mean you can't get in. We also would require, if a kid ever signed up for a short course or summer academy at School for the Blind, we would require them to, some family or somebody to be responsible to be here the entire time they're there. Not on campus, but in the neighborhood. Is there an option of contracted teacher assistants? Can you contract a TVI or an O&M? Can the district pay for it? For you, those of you who are not aware, the budget to pay a teacher on staff is a totally different budget than the budget to contract a teacher or a contractor. And so while your district might not be able to accept a new position, they might be able to contract even as much as full-time equivalency. They might be able to contract out a full-time teacher where they don't have the budget for that for a position. And is the School for the Blind or another setting appropriate for any students? As a School for the Blind administrator, this is sure a lame way to get students. But at the end of the day, maybe this is your time when you're feeling overwhelmed to be like, no, wait a minute. I do know about the School for the Blind in my state. Let me really think about these kids. Like, would one of them do better there? Yeah, your immediate goal is to offload them off your case, right? But if you look at the School for the Blind based on that need, and it ends up being the better service structure for that kid, hey, you've got solutions in mind, right? Whew. May, in my brain, that had all this discussion and conversation and chatting, and I chose Emily to do last week because she taught me that we can talk in these things, and it was just me talking to myself. Thank you for chiming in.
There's actually quite a few comments that I didn't read out because of time, but if anyone wants to listen. Visit is great at determining student services and possible goals, not teacher workload based on job duties, was one comment. There was a couple comments on the visit, like the visit, someone likes to visit for double checking her estimated service minutes for IEPs. Does not cover all of the work we do though. I have a time tracking app called Now Then that helps me track time for each school district and can be customized as much as you want. So can track whatever time you want, including report writing, staff training, emails, scheduling, drive time, etc. So that might be helpful.
Hey, for those of you who are really organized and able to keep up with something like that, that would be cool, right? That is not me, but that's a neat app. Now Then.
Mm-hmm.
All right.